Romper room will come to order.
Did you get fired?
It'll be hopefully uneventful in the good sense. Are we ready to go? Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Let's get started. Madam Clerk, you want to roll us in?
Bell,
Here.
Curran. Freeling,
Present.
Harrison,
Here.
Hinkleman, Majerick,
Here.
Ott,
Here.
Pitchford,
Here.
Ballrath,
Mamie's honor, I'm present.
Werfel, here, Yarborough, Elliott.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have 11 present, 1 absent.
Thank you. And it is 20 till 3 in Milan, Italy right now. So hopefully Mamie's getting ready for a wonderful early dinner. Minutes from a week ago. Anybody want to?
Make a motion, we approve.
Dave moves,
Second.
supported by Shokwe. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Those minutes are approved. Let's review some requisitions if it's a good time.
So, good morning. Does anybody have any questions on all of the, on any of the requisitions with the exception of the culvert? Okay, so then at the 10:30,
Yep.
I will say what finance did there, and then if we're good to go, we'll pass it around. Thank
All right,
you.
Thank you. Warren is here. We'll get the equalization report.
Everyone's favorite. Mac, are you ready? Okay. Thank you.
Oh, need a mic. There you go. Okay.
All righty. So good morning, everyone. Warren Parrish, your equalization director. I'm here to talk about our annual equalization report, but also give you a little bit of a department update. This is the culmination of basically the last year of work done by my department. So kind of our big thing. Very exciting. Yeah. So let's start with the department update. I do want to take just a quick minute to talk about this. You of course have myself as the director and Katie as our deputy director, but we have 5 appraisers. And you can note next to their names, these handy dandy little designations. But this is a pretty big deal. Carrie has been with our department for several years. She says, since God was a small child is her quote. So she's our veteran appraiser, but all of the other appraisers have only been with us for a handful of years. And just recently, Amber and Andrew obtained their level 3. That's their Michigan Advanced Assessing Officer certification. And that's a really big deal. I know that we've talked in the past about the scarcity of assessing professionals, in particular in our region, let alone the state. And the fact that we've been able to take 4 appraisers who had 0 experience and get them to the levels that they're at currently is something I'm extremely proud of. They've done fantastic work and they've come a really long way. And it's a really big deal. It's a really big deal. And so keeping them is an even bigger deal. Point made. I do want to talk about Katie just a little bit here, because in our reconciliation of the equalization report, doing all of the back and forth with the local units and putting them all together, came up with an estimate, a number of reports that she either receives, runs, reviews, reconciles, whatever. And she ballparked 900 different reports, just as her workflow for specifically putting together the equalization report. That's not like over the course of the year, that's over the course of the last month or handful of weeks. And so that doesn't consider what I've looked at. I didn't bother to come up with an estimate. That's just her estimate. A lot of work goes into this is the point. So moving on. A little bit more about the department. This year, we completed 73 appraisal studies, which means over 1,000 individual appraisals. I've gotten to a point where I've stopped trying to actually come up with the number. And I'm just going with over 1,000 because that paints the picture. 37 sales studies, that's a little bit more than usual, which is kind of nice because they're in a way they're easier, and I can have a higher level of confidence in them rather than appraisal studies, which have more subjectivity involved. 80 personal property studies and 197 assessment levels studied. That is really the point of what we're doing. We have to study, I'm probably going to talk about this in a future slide, but we have to study the level of assessment in each property classification in each of our municipalities. So that nets to 197 assessment level studies. I'm hammering the point that a lot of work goes into this. All right, so what is the role of equalization? I've got one law with 3 subsections I really want to draw your attention to. This is 21134, my favorite MCL. Section 3 states that the County Board of Commissioners shall establish and maintain a department to do this. It goes on to say that the personnel of the department shall be under direct supervision and control of a director. It's me. So our function is mandated by statute. The next part of the law I want to talk about, Section 2, that the County Board of Commissioners shall examine assessment rolls of the townships and cities, ascertain whether or not they have been equally and uniformly assessed at true cash value. That's what we're doing. That's what this is all about. That's the equalization process at work. And then Section 1 states specifically that the County Board of Commissioners shall meet in April each year to determine equalized value. Again, that's what we're doing. So that's our main function, and it's all dictated in statute, which is, I don't know how common that is, but I don't know, I always fall back on that, so. All right, what is the purpose of the equalization report? I kind of mentioned it a little bit ago, but we're measuring the level of assessment for each property class in each municipality. It's going to be 197, again, assessment levels studied. Assessment levels that are not between 49 and 50% true cash value shall be adjusted via local unit factor to reach 50%. I'm not recommending any unusual factors this year, which means I'm recommending a factor of 1 for all classes. Basically, we're going to equalize at the level that the assessors completed their roles. That's nice. That makes it easy. Ideally, that happens every year. I've never had to recommend an unusual factor. I hope I never have to. But sometimes it does happen, and sometimes it happens at the fault of no one. It can just be an oddity in the role that would force an unusual factor. But in this case, we're good. Everyone's getting a 1. Elaborating about the purpose of the report, this has a ton of data in it. It's almost 100 pages, and it is just a barrel of laughs. You've got a lot of information broken down every which way, and the school districts love it. They use it for budgeting, for reporting, whatever. It has way more in it than anyone asked for, but people, one organization might like this part, another organization might like another part. So if it's in there, it's because we've been asked about it. All right, so here's an overview of this is really the main point. This is the main highlight of the report. So last year, the equalized value or the assessed value or the what will become the state equalized value increased overall by 5.29%. That's pretty typical. This year, 14.31% increase. I don't know for sure, but I want to say that that's the biggest we've ever seen, like ever. My information doesn't go back, after a certain point, but it's pretty extraordinary. We saw it coming, we knew this was happening. The market has been like nothing we've ever seen. Construction costs going up has been like nothing we've ever seen, but nonetheless, it's a dramatic increase. What does that mean for taxable value? Well, the last year, the increase in taxable value is 4.54%. This year, we're looking at 8%. And I think that's super neat because it's not 7.99% and it's not 8.01%. It's 8.00% on the money. It's just an extraordinary coincidence, especially when you're talking about billions of dollars in taxable value. So 8% is a huge increase. Again, we saw it coming. And as I mentioned a couple weeks back, the majority effect on that is from inflation. All right, so I have a few slides just kind of highlighting what you might find in the report. There's some charts and things. This gives you a breakdown of equalized and taxable value each year. And it goes all the way back to 94, which was when taxable value was first created. So you can see in 94, they're the same number. And moving forward, it's slowly had a gap. And you can see when we had our recession, and then currently these massive spikes for 2023. Another chart you'll find in the equalization report just lists the percentage of change in county equalized value, or SEV, and taxable value. And this slide in particular, I was excited to hear from Commissioner Yarborough because the city of Benton Harbor has notably the highest increase in both assessed and taxable. And so I was anticipating a question from her on it. What's going on there is the Whirlpool building across from the bridge was under a commercial rehabilitation certificate, which expired at the end of last year. So that was part of their incentive, to develop. Since that expired at the end of last year, that means a lot of value is coming on the roll for this year. So overwhelmingly, that spike is due to that. And I thought it might stand out, so I thought there might be a question. So that's what's going on there.
How many years did they have that?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know. Not that many though, because it wasn't, when did they even build? Because that was only like 5-6 years ago, right?
It won.
Commercial rehab certificates, I think, are a max of 10 years.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure, but, well, yeah, we'll go with that. I can get back to you too if you'd like. Okay. And then this is just an example. It's just the first unit, but every unit has a page which just gives stats on the change in value assessed and taxable for each property class within that unit, and a chart showing the percentage of how much of the unit is residential, commercial, etc. And that's really it. That is, like I said, a barrel of laughs.
Do you, I know in the past, you have had the reports for us to give to our units
Yes.
of government. I know we're trying to save on some of the printing.
Yeah.
Well, not save, but just be mindful of
Sure.
different technology being used necessarily. Are you sending it to those municipalities? Is that something that you're planning on doing or?
The plan, yeah, great question. The plan at the moment is I always publish this on our website, and a lot of those local partners know where to go to find it. So I think that checks most of the boxes. That said, I haven't printed any copies this year. I'm more than happy to do that if there's an interest, or if we want to pursue some other medium to convey it or transmit it. But the websites are our go-to. Push.
Could you go back to the slide where we saw the largest increase in value?
Is that this one?
Back a bit more, I believe. Yes. Is this a warning sign? Because the last time we saw this type of a increase, I apologize.
Yeah.
We had a, 4-year recession soon after, and if this is the largest jump, is this a warning sign? Is this a good sign? I know it's good in the short term, but long-term view here.
So that is a very, very good and complex question. I personally expected us to be in a recession already. I'm surprised we haven't already crashed. So short answer, my opinion, yeah, this is a good thing in the short term for from a revenue point of view and from a point of view of anyone who owns property. But even in the short term, it is a bad thing for people who don't have property or need a place to live. Our housing situation is complex, and we're all aware of that. But it's only a matter of time. You know, it always comes up and down. It's only a matter of time. But if you recall, if you recall, one of the things I was remarking on a couple weeks ago, even when and if the market does crash, we're probably still going to see increases in taxable value just because of the way this works, right? Like this has to come down far enough to drag, assessment has to come down far enough to drag taxable value down with it. And there's a big gap there. So that's going to mean even more hardship for property owners and taxpayers if and when the market does start to tank.
One more question, if that's okay. If we look back to, say, 2007, I think is where I want to start.
Sure.
You see 10%, 7%, 2% drop down to 3%. Right now, if we go to 2020, we see 2%, 3%, 5%, 14%. Is there precedent for that many years back to back for taxable value increasing?
I'm not sure I completely follow.
So looking from 2007 to when the recession happened, we saw year by year decreases. What we're seeing right now is year by year increases of taxable value.
Sure.
What does that signal? That we're seeing year by year the taxable value going up, and that doesn't comport with what happened before the recession before, because you saw year by year decreases.
I don't know that there's any definitive conclusion to draw from that there's necessarily a correlation there. I think the factors are just what we see in real estate market behavior, what we see with interest rates, what we see with inflation. That I think is.
And if I apologize, my question is a little open-ended. I guess I'm asking, are we going to see a gradual drop down or is it going to fall off of a cliff? Because it looks like it gradually.
Yeah. That is a great question. If I can only speculate, so take this with a grain of salt, I would say gradual. Part of how this works, if you notice, the actual recession, I think a lot of people would say occurred around, 2008, 2009. Notice how these decreases are taking place after that. The reason for that is because we're lagging behind in our analysis. Just by the nature of market analysis, we have to look at the past to determine the present. So if the market does start to be on the decline, we're going to be a little bit slow catching up to that information. That said, when a market is in decline, the state has us look at different dates of our sale period so that we're actually looking at more current, more recent information so that the effect of that decrease can hit the rolls sooner than later. Don't know if I make sense in that explanation.
Makes perfect sense.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can I jump in for a second? So I just want to make sure that the group understands these are good questions. This is a good discussion. But Warren's job is to assess to help gather and present the value on the overall community. Asking a local assessor or equalization to predict what's coming, I would just be cautious on taking those predictions as gospel. Earlier this week, the Strategic Leadership Council was talking. They have a best practices committee. The SLC is in the process of exploring whether or not to hire the Upjohn Institute to have their team of economists come in and also take a look at what's coming. What Warren's just presented to you is really remarkable. It shows how fast the overall community value has jumped. I think the questions that are being asked are very appropriate because at its core, when you see values jumping this fast, if you've got a house, great. Your property's going up in value. If you don't have a house, now it's going to get very difficult to enter the market. And I think that should the SLC opt to engage the Upjohn Institute, that's going to be really good information because they're going to be able to predict what's coming and what that impact is on your local workforce. The reason I bring this up is to say we will actively work to engage that group and to share the results of that study. I'm essentially trying to buy a little bit of cover for Warren that if his predictions today end up being wrong, then nobody comes back and tries to smack him. For anyone working in your county administration building right now, this is a jump that is very remarkable, and I think it is a jump that should give us all a little bit of pause. We are going to see additional revenue, but whether or not that revenue stream is stable and long-term is really the question.
Yeah, okay, John.
Real quickly, to address two things. You asked about the median.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, Annette.
That's okay.
You asked about the median to send this out. What I would like to see done, and I don't know that the other commissioners feel that way, but to the municipalities we serve, if you could send a paper copy to each of them, and don't give it to us to give to them, get it to them right away, so that they've got that paper copy that they can refer to, so that everybody in the office can do it without accessing it electronically. I would like that, to see that done. And I think that the municipalities have always enjoyed having that paper copy in the past. So that's that. And the one thing, as far as your predictions go, inflation has never been like this before. So even though the property values have jumped up 14%, so have the price of vehicles and the sofa that you put in your living area. And so on a comparative note, while that's gone up, the buying power of that extra 14% isn't 14%. It's commensurate with look at what repairs are costing us now. So the fact of the matter is that I don't know personally that the economists will go so far as to say that they're going to see a steep drop off, because I don't believe they can. Wages have improved commensurately. Everything has gone up. Property values have gone up. Everything has gone up similarly. I won't say in sync, but similarly. So I don't think that you're gonna see some kind of a steep fall off. If you do, if property values fall off, I don't believe they can take the price of vehicles back due to labor. I don't believe they can do those things. So it'll be, so from my standpoint, you may see this, but the buying power, even though you're gonna see more revenue, the revenue won't go as far. So it just won't happen. So anyway, that,
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
This is a perfect segue. Admin committee is going to be meeting in here today. Admin committee is going to be getting a very lengthy discussion on how far their dollars will go for building improvements, because it is a certainty that the trades have gone up. And we'll be having that conversation in admin with the intent of then bringing it forward to the full board, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, for a discussion as part of a committee of the whole.
Is the facilities update with Ms. Dronin and Mr. Facciocchi? Is that going to be on Zoom?
So we're going to have his presentation file up on the overhead display. We were not planning to zoom it out to the public today.
You can. Sorry.
Go ahead and.
No, we could set it up as a Zoom and stream it out to YouTube if we do that.
So my goal today was not to zoom it out, and the reason for that is I'd like to give admin a chance to chew on some of the suggested repairs,
Okay,
to refine that list and then bring it forward for committee of the whole.
makes
But
sense.
to Commissioner Hengelman's point, the prices are jumping fast.
And just to briefly remark on that, that 14% increase in assessed value is largely attributable to construction costs going up. I mean, inflation is in there too. There's a lot that goes behind that, but that's how we determine value in mass appraisal is cost.
I would even make the comment that property values haven't gone up as much as the increases to construction costs. I know that that's one of the factors that you utilize, but I would say that our dollars, without knowing what that presentation looks like for admin, I'll bet you that you've chipped away more than 14% at it. I'll bet you, a lot. Dollars to donuts is the phrase, so.
Yeah, because that 14% embraces all property and, all considerations. And so it's, when you look at this report, it's gonna be, narrowed. But I think you have a good point. Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Oh, Warren, a quick question. The ceiling under Headley
Yeah.
have we hit that?
I think this is what you're asking. We're not gonna have a rollback this year. That's what you're getting at?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because of inflation being as high as it is, and because taxable value, so it's 7.9%, I want to say, is our inflation rate. But because taxable value is limited to 5% increase from inflation, we actually have more rollback mitigation built into the formula. Because we're allowed the whole 7.9% in the Headley reduction.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and tying into Shokway's questions, in 07, 08, we didn't have COVID. We didn't have massive federal spending. And we have the Fed trying to cool it by ratcheting up interest rates, but then the federal government is continuing to spend. And so we're now in a very dangerous situation where, just to put it in perspective, the federal defense department budget projected is going to be about 800 billion with a B. Our debt service is 1.6 trillion with a T. We're close to technical insolvency now. And that ain't good. And even if people are getting 5% wage increases, inflation's higher, so they're technically getting a pay cut, if you look at it that way. So it's not a good situation. It's not sustainable, I would say. And,
I think that's a great, if you forgive me remarking on it, I think that's a great point. That's a point that I've been really trying to Yeah. Get out there. Because absolutely.
Okay, anyone have anything else? Thank you, Warren. Appreciate your time and efforts. Public comments, anybody have anything they'd like to share? All right, other business, just a housekeeping note. At the 10:30 meeting, we're going to have Judge Howard join us and be able to share some information during the comments prior to entertaining the consent calendar, specifically on the eviction diversion program. Was able to get some time with her last evening, was very helpful, and had mentioned to her that I had wished we'd had her here last week because it would have been beneficial. But we'll have her today. And my thinking is during the public comment before the resolutions on the consent calendar that we cut her a little bit of slack in case it runs a bit over 2 minutes, if that's okay with everyone. So, yeah, so just don't clock her out at 2 minutes, so. I know. All right, otherwise, anybody have anything? Let's break then and come back at 10:30.
Hey, Mac, before everybody leaves, just a quick introduction. We've got Daniel is here. Daniel is Daniel B., who I think you've all heard me reference. And then Paula will be joining him. So admin committee will be staying in here. Admin, please don't leave. Finance, you're back in your normal room. I think we got a little bit of a crosswire on where you're meeting today. So finance upstairs, PHS upstairs, admin stay here.
Is it Baciochi? Baciochi, okay, Baciochi. All right,
It's a hard C.
got it. Grazie mille.